Ah, geez, legally distinct Pokemon with guns crossed with some of the gameplay from Arc just launched into early access, and well, it has good action gameplay and decent graphics, so that's a step up from some other franchises. It's entered early access with a little over 100 different pals to collect, so I'm gonna do what I love to do with creature collectors. I'm going to show you every pal in Palworld, explain something about what they are based on, and break down the etymology of its name. There's a lot of really cool and fun monster ideas here with a wide range of, originality. We'll definitely talk more about that aspect in another video, but for now, there's like a not Eevee and a not Eevee and a not Goodra crossed with Lilligant. This is not a modified Sylvia Tinkaton fusion. This is definitely not just a Gallade with Decidueye colors and abilities. And this, oh man, that is not just a grass-type Cinderace. I swear. People are of course going to focus on the super similar ones, but for every one that is super similar or even rip-off territory to a Pokemon, there's a unique one or two, or at least one that's based on something a little more obscure, like a Digimon. But no, this game, it's legally distinct. The gameplay is completely different, the type chart is weird, none of them evolve, and you have a team of 5 instead of 6, so it's different. I mean, the Pokédex is called a Pal Deck instead. That's completely not the same. So let's briefly explain them all now, shall we? Lamball is a lamb in the shape of a ball. It rolls down hills, but its wool is very thick, which protects it from most attacks, hence you being able to carry it and use as a meat shield. I do like the crystals on its chest. They resemble big buttons on a wool coat. Cativa is a small cat that helps you carry extra supplies, much like the Norse goddess Freya's 2 cats that pulled her wagon and carried her supplies. And now at number 2, it's already a good time to mention that Palworld has a lot to do with Norse mythology. That's sort of the whole setting. Not every pal is related to it, but definitely most of them are. Cativa are mostly skittish and playful, but are often trying to pull pranks. They're like a little boy. Hence the ahoge hair on its head, anime shorthand for this type of character trait. The name ending the way it does could pull from sativa, which is Latin sciencey terms meaning cultivated, often in the context of it working better now than it did when it was in the wild. Chickpea. It's like a little chickpea, but it's also just a cartoon chicken. It's tasty too. Very egg-shaped, almost like another bird, the chickadee. I love that they attack in hordes, just Zelda style. Leaf Monk is sorta one of the early game mascots of Palworld. It's a chipmunk with leaf ears. At least the name implies that, but really it's a squirrel. And in Old Norse, Leaf was a bringer of new life to a new world, and her and Leifthrassir were 2 mortals said to survive Ragnarok, beginning life in a new world. Fox Sparks is a fiery fox that starts fires with fiery sparks. Now, northern Finland has an old mythical creature like this, aptly named the Fire Fox, or, a word I'll try to pronounce, Tuliketu? It's basically a fox whose tail glows with sparkly cinders. It's also where the browser gets its name. Fwack! What a name. Hey you, Fwack! You! Fwack you! You Fwack! It's a weird platypus duck thing, so quack, and then you put an F in front because it's funny sounding. Fwack! Its partner skill attack is a slam, so maybe it's also the sound it makes. A whack! But hwa hwa is a sound it can't make because it has a bill, so it's Fwack! Spark it! It's a sparky kitty, lightning designs all over, and ears that resemble electrical bushing. Tan Z is almost a pothead. Despite having a tail making it a monkey, it's named after the chimpanzee. Tan could be from orangutan, but Tan is also an honorific in Japanese, used when talking to babies or little children. But this monkey child has those dexterous monkey hands, so it's especially good with guns. Ruby! Weird, it's like a deer with a fox tail and a bow tie. It's said to have perfect health and never get sick, which may pull from medieval bestiaries' descriptions of male deer. They believed them to be functionally immortal. If they got sick or injured, they could just revert to their younger self by removing their antlers. And the name here could refer to its color, ruby red, but maybe it relates to the ruby gemstone, which in metaphysical communities is said to promote compassion and well-being for your health. Pangolin. So, is it a penguin who likes to stuff food in its gullet? No! It's a penguin that's also a bullet. These flightless birds dream only of flight, and how do they achieve this? Well, by becoming your rocket launcher ammunition. Oh my word. Then Peng King is the king of pangolets, though it's mentioned that it's completely unrelated to them. It has many more similarities to Thwack. There's probably some lore there. Jolthog! It's a hedgehog that delivers jolts of electricity after you throw it like an electric hand grenade. Gummoss! It's a little RPG slime, but it's tree sap, and tree sap you can chew is called natural gum. So there you go, it's gum and moss. Love that the pottery on its head looks like a beanie. Vixie. Honestly, probably my least favorite design out of all of them, at least the bottom 5, so thankfully we get it out of the way very early. It's a vixen, a female fox. It's able to release sexy pheromones to cause confusion, impeding the ability of others to make smart decisions. Kind of like vixen, the slang term for sensual women. Hoocrates, not hoocrates. It's nothing to do with crates here, it's hoocrates. Because Socrates was a very famous wise guy, and owls are said to be wise too, and they say hoot, so Hoocrates. I quite like the old man eyebrows and hair, and the wizard hat. Wizards are also said to be very wise, though technically intelligent. Also, now's a good time to bring this up. The dark type in Palworld is pretty different from the dark type in Pokemon. In Palworld, it sort of encapsulates dark, ghost, and psychic all into a single type. They sort of do the same thing with ground. Their ground type is like Pokemon ground and rock combined, so an earth type really. And all the other types, though, are pretty straightforward. Teefant! It's a little baby elephant that's also a teapot. I love its in-game description. Large amounts of water pours from what is thought to be its nose, though some say it is, in fact, just snot. You. Depresso. We made Esper punk and sad, and a dog now, maybe. Not only is it depressed seeming, but it's also addicted to caffeine. You know, those things could be linked. Its partner skill has it chug a bunch of energy drinks to increase movement speed drastically, like chugging a bunch of coffee or espresso. Creamus is a creamy cloud with a face. There are many kinds of clouds, and the vast majority of their names end with us. So Creamus, Cremus, Cirrus, Cumulus. Yeah, it's a cloud animal. So soft and cuddly. Just like my mattress from today's sponsor, Helix Sleep. From the moment I first laid eyes on its easy-to-move box, I knew it was the one for me. After all, I got matched to it after taking Helix's online sleep quiz, which matches you, or even you and a partner, to the perfect mattress. But of course, I, like most, would not be positive if the mattress sent to me through the mail would be perfect for me, but that is why Helix offers 100-night sleep trials to make sure it's perfect. Mine, thankfully, was, and it was grand. We made pillow babies. I got the Midnight Luxe, the middlingest middle mattress with the plushy cooling cover on top to help wick away excess body heat, because, you see, I need very specific temperature setups to sleep well, like the air has to be cold and moving, but I need to be under a hot blanket with 1 foot and arm sticking out. But also, the blanket itself has always been a struggle for me because my wife and cat are furnaces, and that added heat is always trapped under the blanket, but the cooling cover helps regulate the whole bed. Now, anything other than this mattress is deemed unsleepable, and I suffer every time I'm away. It spoils me, and I can spoil you with a good deal. Use the link at the top of this video's description, helixsleep.com/Loxton, and you will get 20% off and 2 free pillows. It's time to upgrade your sleep, you know. New year, new you. Get your spine aligned. Get well rested, and you'll notice your overall quality of life improving along with your sleep. Sleep is always a worthy investment, hence Helix also offering flexible financing options. Check them out, link below. And now, Daydream. I actually really like this design. It's a dreamy cloud-like daemon, a dream spirit. So, common misconception, daemon is not an alternate spelling of demon. In its original ancient Greek context, a demon is an evil spirit, and a daemon is a good spirit, or at least a not evil one. So it's nice to see this pal's in-game description reading. It puts those it is interested in to sleep and shows them an endless stream of happy dreams. How pleasant. But the description does continue. Those who fall under its spell are never to wake until death takes them. Oh, maybe it is still evil. Rushor! It's a wild boar that goes fast, so it rushes. Nox is a periwinkle magician magic fox, potentially named after the Roman goddess of the night, Nox. It also just means night or darkness in Latin. Can you guess what type of pal it is? Fuddler! Watch out, it's a lazy cuddler. It spends all day sharpening its diamond-hard mole claws, so it gets tired really easily. Fudging that it's been working all day. It's also fudge-colored, and to fuddle is to confuse someone. Killamari is a squid with the 2 extra long tentacles that squid have. Once prepared for eating, squid is called calamari, and this calamari will kill. Mao is an Egyptian cat covered in Egyptian decorations. Mao sounds like meow, but it's also just the Egyptian word for cat, and the name of a cat breed. The Mao breed is actually the oldest domesticated cat breed still around today. Its dark typing links it up to the underworld too. Back in ancient Egypt, there was a flourishing business of raising cats to slaughter and mummify, to bury alongside dead family members. This would bring favor to the cat goddess Bastet and help your family out in the underworld. That's probably part of why Mao is black and gold, and it likely also relates to Palworld's own mass slaughtering of Mao to get their lucky bells. Celeray sounds like celery, but it's a manta ray that accelerates, or helps you ascend or descend, gliding through the air. Dire Howl. We have found the worst name so far. It's a dire wolf and wolves howl. Toko Toko, it's a Toko toucan, which is like the iconic species of toucan. It's got all kind of bright and colorful feathers that both reflect real-world birds of paradise, and also the ritualistic wear of many Amazonian native peoples. And even the mohawk could be from the Mohawk people in North America. Floppy! It's a floppy-eared bunny with floppy ears and straight-up ears. But even more so, it's a nature spirit, a fey creature of sorts. Hence the accessorizing and levitation. Mazzarina is a monster cow. It makes a load of milk. Quote, milk pours from this pal like water from an open faucet, regardless of its gender. It's truly a mystery of life, although this mystery may be better left unsolved. Well, maybe make some mozzarella with all of the excess funky spunky cheese. It's the very feminine plant in a puffy dress trope that another franchise is known for. This is Bristla. Ending names with is a way to make them feminine, and this pal has a bunch of bristles. Bristles are short, stiff hairs on a plant or animal, inherently very prickly, almost like little spikes or thorns. Gobfin. Okay, maybe not a surprise to anybody who knows me, but I love this design actually, especially the Ignis variety. Oh yeah, some pals have variants that are just a different color and type, but not most of them, so I'm not going to mention any of them besides this one, just because I love it so much. But Gobfin is a goblin with a fin on its head because it's an aquatic goblin. Shark fin, piranha teeth, merfolk hands and frills. Love it. Hangyu is a clay ghost thing that's actually a noose. I am not kidding. Here's its official description. Its long arms can rip apart even iron. As a particularly cruel form of execution, serious criminals would be strung up in a public square, and a hangyu would rip the skin from their bones. Oh, I was expecting just a typical hanging. Not that. Mossanda. I do love this guy's design. Ultimately, it's just a panda with moss on it, but it's also a strong man, able to tear through 3,000 pieces of paper at once. Fitting for a panda, since China invented paper and all. But that mossy headwear. It's executioner headwear. There's a reason it's right after Hangyu. Woolly Pop. It's like a poodle that's also a woolly sheep, and some lollipops stuck on cotton candy. It is said that its body is 18,000 times sweeter than sugar, which is a pretty ridiculous number, but maybe not as ridiculous as you think. Thalmatin is the sweetest substance on Earth, and it's 3,250 times sweeter than sugar. Go figure. And plenty of people think their dog is the sweetest thing ever, though I doubt it's ever a poodle. Caprati is a little Capricorn bush. It's a berry bush growing on the back of an oddly bunny-like goat, or Capricorn. Did you know that the only difference between a tree and a bush is its height? They're like biologically the same thing. So maybe it's a Capricorn tree, hence the name. Melpaca is an alpaca with boots? Did they change the A in alpaca to an E just because malpaca would be too on the nose? Mal means bad, or mean, and it is a violent alpaca. Don't be fooled by its fluffy appearance. A hypersonic kick from one of its long legs may send you flying to the other side of the world. Eikthyr deer sounds like a big and deep and mysterious name, but it's just the word deer after Eikthyr, the name of a great stag that lives in Valhalla in Norse mythology. Nightwing is an edgy bird pal with feathers like a harpy eagle, and a similar yet opposite behavior to a few birds, most famously the cuckoo. These birds will lay their eggs in other birds' nests, so the other birds will take care of their babies, who grow faster and more aggressively to push out the competition. On the flip side, though, Nightwing will kidnap other pals' eggs and babies and raise them as its own. Then once fattened up, it will hunt them. Ribbunny! It's a bunny with some ribbons. Bunch of ribbons. Too many ribbons. Incineram. It's a fiery anthro ram. It will incinerate your soul. It makes me think of like the opposite of a chupacabra. While the chupacabra is a hellish dog monster that steals and eats sheep and goats and is sometimes more anthro, Incineram is a hellish anthro ram monster that snatches prey to bring back to its territory. What happens to those poor souls afterwards isn't hard to imagine. And it attacks with a powerful hellfire claw. Yeah, so we'll go with the opposite of a chupacabra. Cinnamoth is a cinnamon-colored and scented moth. Moths are often dusty, and so this one just has cinnamon dust. Cute! Except it's able to spread that dust to make a poison cloud. Think like the old cinnamon challenge. Only you can't escape. That old cinnamon challenge, it took a few lives. Cinnamon can be deadly. Arsox, an ox that commits arson, which is to criminally light things on fire. Technically, lighting yourself on fire is a crime in many places. Notably, it looks much more like a mountain goat than an ox, though. Perhaps it's a reference to the Norse Yule goat tradition, where a giant straw statue of a goat is made. And then they are very, very frequently the victims of arson themselves. Also, consider the two goats that pull Thor's chariot. They are frequently roasted by Thor to be eaten, and then he resurrects them. Plus, in the real world, goats don't often pull wagons or chariots, but ox do. Mud. It's a fat and slow mud skipper. Little flag fin and big mouth and all. They are fish that live in super wet mud and can even breathe air much better than most fish. Do is a prefix meaning two, perhaps referencing its two brain cells. When too relaxed, its reaction time drastically declines. Even if it were sliced head to tail, it probably wouldn't even realize that it should be dead until the next morning. Oh gosh, it's slow and dumb. It's dumb mud. Cognito. It's a raven or crow, which say caw, and this crow is going incognito. With its hat mask and trench coat, they're like spies. Notably, this is exactly how Odin used his two pet ravens in Norse mythology, Hugin and Munin. They were his eyes. They were his spies. Leespunk is a lizard bunk, doing hip-hop dance moves in an oversized hoodie. Perhaps the hoodie is its old shed skin. Wonder where that idea came from. Loop Moon, edgy AF. The crescent moon horns are cool though. It's like a lupine werewolf thing. Lupine means wolf-like after all, and the idea of werewolves is very ancient. And sure enough, the Norse had many a werewolf story. More than 50 unique ones, experts believe. Gale Claw. It has claws and it makes gales, which are gusts of wind, because it's a bird. Robin Quill is a grassy archer, a Robin Hood figure for sure, famed forest-dwelling folklore hero archer of the Middle Ages. In England, notably, as the British Isles have a lot of Viking history too. Gorirat is honestly the most unique and original pal so far. I mean, a gorilla rat? Yes. Yes. More of this, please. Bee Guard are guardian bees to the queen bee. They've got big fluffy beards because bees got big fluffy butts, and Elizabeth is their queen, clearly named after famous English queen, Queen Elizabeth I, who famously also had the big fluffy neck piece and red hair just like the long hair thing on Elizabeth. Grintail. Oh boy, I actually really like Grintail. I mean, sure, it's just the Cheshire Cat from the British Alice in Wonderland, hence also the tail being spelled like the story kind of tail. Oh, and it's got the big grin, obviously, like the Cheshire Cat, but it's also got a super special tail. Two of them, split midway up like a few cat yokai, Bakeneko and Nekomata most notably. The split tail is proof that it's a yokai and not just an ordinary cat, as if the clothes wearing and walking upright and speaking wasn't enough of a giveaway. Sweet! They are small, wee, and you can use them like a mop. You sweep things up with them. And Sweepa is their papa, a big swee, a giant floof, a puff of pop. But actually it's just several dozen swee all stuffed together. Chillet is a chilly, ice-cold ferret, but actually it's ice dragon type. Quite the ferrety dragon. Univolt! Oh man, I could have gone my whole life without seeing that. I do not like this design. It is just unpleasant on the eyes. Obvious what it is though, it's a lightning unicorn, sending volts of electricity at its targets. Foxicle. It's an icy fox. Fun fact, that Tulikettu that I mentioned with the fiery fox pal was also believed to create the northern lights in the Arctic North. In fact, the old Finnish word for aurora translates to foxfire. But here we have a fox that makes icicles. And it also has a few tails, which makes it a bit of a kitsune, Japanese fox spirits that are said to gain extra tails as they age over centuries. Pyrin is a fiery scaled blue horse dragon because it's a Kirin, a Chinese horse dragon, often said to have horns just like this too. And Pyrin, Pyro, yeah. Raintrix is a grandiosely icy reindeer. It's got a big, fluffy, stripy coat. Where does the Rix come in, though? Well, perhaps matrix. In the context of anatomy, a matrix refers to the formative cells of tissue around a specialized structure, such as nails, claws, and antlers. But also, in the early to mid-20th century, it was common to end words with trix to make them feminine. For example, an aviatrix was an aviator who was a woman. And unlike most deer, both male and female reindeer grow huge antlers. And then there's Rayhound, who's just a hound dog that shoots rays of lightning. Kitsune. It's a kitsune with a fire aura around its neck resembling a sun. A kitsune, again, is a fox spirit in Japanese folklore. They themselves often mischievous and fiery. Dazi is a dazzling djinn or genie, mixed with an oni. The first two are elemental spirits from the Middle East, and the latter is an ogre from Japan, often with a single horn just like that. Both often have brightly colorful skin and are depicted either without legs or with those legs hidden inside of clouds. Lunaris is lunar and quite alien-looking, spacey, where the star Polaris is. It's said you can stare into its eyes and have your mind taken over by it. And both in folklore and in real life, the moon is said to have some profound effects on the behavior of humans and animals alike. I like how its ability modifies gravity around you, increasing your carry capacity. It's like how the moon affects the tides, except it's just you. Dinossum is an awesome theropod dinosaur. But really, it just has a flower blooming on its head. It's blossoming. It's a thick lily in particular. Serpent is a serpent that surfs, and there are quite a few semi-aquatic snakes out there, but given the Norse context, I can't help but think it looks a bit like a longboat. The Viking ships, especially given the head shape. I also, of course, think of Jormungandr, the giant world serpent who swims completely around Midgard in the oceans. Mawraith is a spooky wraith, a kind of ghost whose name originates in 16th century Scotland, though some etymologists believe it came from the Old Norse word that, which means guardian, in this case, spirit guardian. Wraiths are said to be ghosts who cause apparitions of both the dead and living. And so, what is this spirit guardian appearing to us as? Well, a manticore, seemingly, hence the name starting with Ma again. Manticores are lions with bat wings and scorpion tails. Digtoise is a tortoise that digs with its big shell drills. See, it's completely different from Blastoise and Bowser. But Tombat just looks like a Sonic OC, and it's not at all a wombat either. Rather, it's a tomcat, but it also has wings like a bat. You know, the crystal and the hair floofs definitely make me think of Blaze the cat. But notably, those yokai cats I mentioned before would often have ghostly flames on the ends of their tails and all around them, just like this pal does. And now the infamous one, Pal number 69. Because of course it is Lavender. Its PAL deck description: seeking a night of love, it is always chasing someone around. At first, it only showed interest in other pals, but in recent years, even humans have become the target of its debauchery. So, when you defeat any pal, they drop things. Normally things like ore, bones, fur, leather, meat, and the like, but this thing, it drops cake. And suspicious juice. Oh my word. It's a salamander that's all about love and loving. Hence the heart boobs and pubes. It's like they took Salazzle and they turned it up to 11. Or all the way up to 69. We gotta move on. Flambelle. Oh, it's so cute. A great follow-up too. It's a proper kind of hot. As in high temperature, just to clarify that. It's flames. It's a little candle, but instead of wax, it's lava. Oh gosh. Van Worm is a big, scary, fire-breathing worm, or Wyrm. Wyrm or worms are a kind of dragon, and we get the word from the Old Norse Ormir, meaning serpent. Wyrms tend to be snake-like dragons, you see. Jormungandr is even referred to as a worm sometimes even. But these days, the term Wyrm is often used incorrectly on just dragons of any sort. Case in point, right here, right now. Actually, it's not even a dragon, or even dragon type. It's a fire-dark bird. The Van in its name probably relates to vanguards. Its tail strikes me as a military trench coat, after all, and vanguards are the foremost position in an army or fleet while advancing into battle. Notably, Van Worm's ability Aerial Marauder increases damage done to weak points, and finding weak points in the enemy's defenses are what vanguards are all about, son! Plus, its description states that in the past, flutes made from its bones were used to signal attacks. Bushi. Huh. It's kind of just a letdown in general. Like, looking at this thing is a letdown. Well, it's a Ronin samurai with a few modern anime tropes thrown in there. Samurai follow the Bushido code, hence the name. Beacon. Okay, I have to admit, I love that name. It's another great bird of prey, electric type this time. Its bolts are a beacon themselves, lighting up the night sky. Ragnahawk is a fiery hawk, named after the Norse fiery Armageddon, Ragnarok. Simple as Catrice, a sorceress cat. Quite simple, as women associated with magic are often witches, and witches themselves are heavily associated with cats. Wixen, a wicked witch vixen, which again is a female fox, and this one is a pyromancer at that. And Verdash. Okay, these last three have been a bit on the nose, Palworld. That's literally Miss Drevis with a cat body under the hat and cloak. That's literally Delphox, but short. There's like a billion animals to choose from for your pyromancer, and you went with the same one that Pokemon did for its pyromancer? You even did the same fluff in the ears, and now there's this! That is literally Cinderace shorts and hair and feet and hands and face, and it's just green, and you gave it a bigger tail and neck frill. I thought the similarities to Pokemon with a lot of these was funny at first, like, haha, oh, come on now. But now, with this, I'm really having second thoughts about that mindset now. But at least the next one is original as far as I can tell. This is Valet, or Violet, a little bug with a violet on its back, and a helmet made from a leaf. Very fantasy-looking helmet, fitting of small fey creatures like pixies and nature spirits of sorts. And Sibylix is a decadent moth lady. As a name, Sibyl means a raindrop between heaven and earth, fitting as Sibylix loves the rain and will bask in it. Which is the opposite behavior of most moths, who will die if their wings get too wet. That said, it has led to a few species of moth gaining the nickname rain moth, because after the rain, they come out in droves, making up for lost time during the rainstorm, really. The YX at the end of the name comes from the bombyx, aka the Chinese silkworm moth, that are famed for their silk to make very fine fabrics, which is this pal's whole deal. Elphidron is a gentle sky dragon flying through the sky. It's like an elf, as in a little fairy, and it's a sylph, an air spirit specifically. Then Dron is just 'cause dragon, I guess. The whole name is sort of a corruption of sylph dragon. Elfdron. Kelpsy is a seahorse, seal, horse? Perhaps it's like a very slenderized kelpie, which were shape-shifting water-dwelling spirits from Scottish folklore. Azure Robe is the azure lady of the lake in a robe, but also a snake with a raiment. Those floating shawls often seen around Eastern gods and goddesses. Cryolynx is a cryogenic bunch of spikes linked together. It's got claws, paws, and stripes. Is it some kind of spiky saber-toothed tiger, Smilodon, which very similarly had much larger front legs than back? Is it a lynx, then perhaps? Very stylized, if so. Original. I like that. Quote, it can easily climb steep mountains with its hard claws. However, its short legs make it difficult to descend, often leaving it stranded in high places. That's some peak cat stuck in a tree behavior. Blaze Howl is the new worst name. It's a flaming wolf, a hellhound perhaps, and that's all there is to it. Relaxaurus is even more so a mascot of the game. It's the Steam icon even. It's like an old-timey Edmontosaurus, as we used to think they stood upright significantly more than we do now. It likes to relax in its off time, but its PAL deck description states it's quite ferocious, and everything in its sight is prey, and it will stop at nothing to devour it. Is it just like a violent carnivorous hadrosaur Snorlax? Broncherry is a brontosaurus with sakura cherry tree-colored petals all around it. How nice! Its name also sounds like mon chéri, which is French for my darling or my love, which is especially fitting since it's all about finding a partner via scent. Quote, it exudes a pleasing aroma after finding a partner, which is called the scent of first love. Petalia is a flower spirit, a plant nymph perhaps, quite the rare creature too, as one is born every 10 years. It's got petals, and it's feminine, hence the Ia at the name, but Leah is also a very feminine name too, though the meaning doesn't relate to the pal at all. Reptyro is a pyro reptile. It has magma for blood. It digs good and eats ores. King Paka is the king of Melpaka. Really, it's just a big alpaca with a crown and a royal robe. And Mamorist is a hulking mammoth with an entire forest on its back. But Wumpo is just a little yeti guy. Wump, 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 wump. A wump is a heavy sound caused by a falling object. And these guys carry things around really good. They are really good hard workers, like farmers with their little plant in the mouth trope thing. Plus, its fur pattern resembles a cartoonish mountain peak. Love it. Warsect is kind of Digimon incarnate, but it's an extremely powerful, war-loving insect. A Japanese rhinoceros beetle, a Golofa, or a Tripoxylus specifically. Fenglope is an antelope wind spirit, hence the cloudy fur. Feng is Chinese for wind, you see, and this pal is based mainly on Fuju from Chinese mythology. It itself a dear spirit of the wind, often depicted as Kirin-like too. Fellbat. Edgy. A bat akin to a fallen angel who fell. Or perhaps it's just the prefix fell, which means deceitful, treacherous, villainous, and evil. It's all about lifesteal, so it's clearly a vampire. Tailcoat, long, dark, and scarlet cape, fancy ruffles and all. Then Quivern. It's a super fluffy, feathery white dragon. The name comes from quill and wyvern, which it isn't, but it also gets applied to dragons generally all the time too. But quill and wyvern together sound like quiver, which is a place one would store their arrows, which have feathers. Blazomet is a blazing Bahamut. Bahamut is, or I guess rather was, a Middle Eastern monster that lies deep below the earth to hold it up. Specifically this one. Yeah, the fish. But in modern media, it's usually depicted as a cool dragon that lives deep underground. Fitting that Blazomet has fiery rocks for fists and horns and is said to be born from a volcano. Another fun fact is that the common fantasy monster Behemoth derives from the same beast, but has evolved differently in modern times. These days, Behemoth tends to look like a large, muscly beast with bull horns or a lion's mane even. Kinda like Final Fantasy's interpretation. Hell Zephyr calls forth lightning from the depths of hell. Evil lightning, but the heck is a zephyr? Well, it's a breeze that is blowing westerly. A fancy old word for wind. 'Cause it's a bird. Astegon. A savage beast born of the abyss. Thou shalt not stand before the beast. Thou shalt not heed the beast. Astegon is the ravager of stars. It's an astral dragon, but also mayhaps is inspired by Astaroth. In demonology, Astaroth is the great duke of hell, a part of the evil trinity even. Fitting origins for this demonic dragon. Looks like a space Godzilla villain even. Menacing! Now that's a good name. I love that name. It's got a menacing stinger because it's an evil scorpion, but also because this pal crams its still living prey into its hollow body, where it absorbs them. Hellish screams of pain can often be heard coming from inside this pal. You know, the ancient Assyrians had Aqua Romelu, scorpion demons who travel to and from the underworld every day, perhaps delivering souls of those they've killed and stuffed inside themselves. They really went and just named it Anubis, huh? It's the Egyptian god of mummification. The pal is called the Guardian of the Dark Sun, which may be inspired by Anubis guarding the entrance to the underworld. Fun fact, Anubis's head is that of a golden wolf, not a jackal, as commonly believed. It's just a black golden wolf, because the black sand around the Nile was fertile and thus symbolic of rebirth and life and such, which Anubis is also about. Jormuntide is Jormungandr, the world serpent from Norse mythology, and it's so powerful and mighty that it moves the tides. Visually, though, it's just your typical classic sea monster. Suzaku! Now that, honestly, is a way cool design. Suzaku is the Japanese name for the vermilion bird of the south, the Chinese phoenix that is one of the 4 auspicious beasts of the cardinal directions. So it's just that, but very stylized. Way cool design. Love it. Grisbolt! Oh no, I actually love it. It's a grizzly bolt of lightning shooter, a big bear. With a friendly smile and hearty physique, it's docile towards ones it recognizes as a partner. For reasons unexplained, its personality undergoes a drastic change when wielding a minigun. God, I love the whole premise of this game. Notably, the Japanese god of thunder and lightning, Raiju, has many animal forms, and the bear is one of them. Liline is the queen of lilies with a big poofy royal gown and all. Felris, or Phalaris, is a militaristic bird that is obviously very heavily inspired by Rome. The name even sounds very Roman. Swap the F for a V. Valaris, Valerian. In-game, Marcus's Phalaris is named Horus, named after the ancient Egyptian falcon-headed god of many things, but most notably for us, it's the god of the sky, and one of the gods of the sun. A perfect origin for Phalaris, because Phalaris itself is known as the master of the flame sky. Orzerk will go berserk, sending ohms of electricity into you. Berserkers were Viking warriors said to have fought in a trance-like fury, high and out of control. Perhaps like the chaotic strikes of a full-on lightning storm. Shadowbeak is an unknown life form, potentially not of this world. Quote, born from the depths of insanity, its very existence should not be. Having lost all genetic ties to other pals, one wonders if it could still even be considered a pal. Spooky. And this ultimate life form even has the, Arceus backwards hair and chain thing. Oof. But it's a griffin. But rather than a lion hawk, it's like a hawk? Hawk? They swapped the lion out for more bird. Palladius is a paladin centaur warrior, angelic and just in its ways. Typical paladin trope. Love the jousting lance. Oh, and Dies is Latin for day. Then Necromus is a Palladius that has fallen to the dark side. So now it's Necro, meaning dead. It's dead on the inside and wants other things to be dead too. Also, its name is Latin for necromancer. Frost Stallion is a frosty stallion, an icy Pegasi, and guardian of Palpagos Island. A magical horse with a storm cloud mane and perhaps a unicorny crown. Unicorns are often said to be magical beings of light and purity, after all. And lastly, for now, in the early access release version of Palworld, it's Jet Dragon. A dragon that is also a jet, but like a sci-fi jet. Cool robot parts and like cool cyber wings. Yeah, it flies high above the land and will descend in moments of calamity to help out. So, what do you think of the pals in the early access version? Sure, there's a lot of uncanny similarities to monsters from other franchises, plural, but there's also plenty of originality to be seen here. And plus, we are rushing a bit here to get this video out to help explain it while it's still fresh in everyone's heads. But when the full game comes out, we'll go over all of them again in much more detail. But if you have something to add about any of them that I missed, please do tell in the comments below. And until next time, never stop using your noggin. Can't believe they did Lavender! There's enough fur bait in the game without it already!